This year's Literature Festival also marks 30 years of Operation Blue Star. We have a panel discussion by those who have been closely associated with it and would deliberate on how 3 decades after the army stormed the Golden Temple, the wounds and the hurts caused by that attack and its aftermath are yet to heal. Our panelists include Mr. Amandeep Sandhu, Mr. Rahul Singh, Mr. Robin Gupta, Mr. Ramesh Vinayak, and Mr. Jagtar Singh. The session is being moderated by Ms. Nirupama Dutt.
Mr. Amandeep Sandhu was a student at Sainik School Kapurthala during the Operation Blue Star days. He has written a remarkable novel on those tragic times titled Roll of Honor. Ms. Nirupama Dutt is a poet, translator, and literary critic of many seasons with several books to her credit. She has written deeply on Punjab and was a witness to the era of Blue Star. Mr. Rahul Singh is a senior editor, writer, who was heading the Indian Express in the days of Operation Blue Star and whose father, Mr. Khushwant Singh, returned his Padma Bhushan to protest the army action.
Mr. Robin Gupta is a retired civil servant with a passion for writing. Mr. Ramesh Vinayak, resident editor, Hindustan Times, covered Punjab during militancy as a young reporter. Mr. Jagtar Singh is a reputed Punjab journalist who covered the decade of militancy in the state. He has authored a book, Khalistan, a Non-Movement. I would request honorable panelists to please come and start with one of the most awaited discussions of the day.
I think मैं सोचती हाँ मैं कुछ सत्रह पंजाबी जरूर कवां नहीं तो साढ़े दोस्त जिहड़े ऑडियंस विच ने खफा हो जाएंगे ते गल अज ऑपरेशन ब्लू स्टार दी है और बहुत सारे पैनलिस्ट ने जो किसी तरह रिस्पॉन्सिबल नहीं सन ऑपरेशन ब्लू स्टार दे पर उस दौर दे साक्षी सन और दौर उन्होंने नेड़ियों देखिया और उहदे बारे लिखिया और कंट्रीब्यूट करने की कोशिश की कि जिहड़े हनेरे दिन सन वो खत्म होण। मैनू उन्हां दे नाल तारा सिंह कामिल दी एक नज़म दी कुछ सतरां याद आ रही हैं। कानू बालना हनेरे च मोमबत्तियां, कानू बालना बनेरे उत्ते मोमबत्तियां, लंघ जाण दे बाजार विचों हवावां तत्तियां, तेरे वेड़े च लगे ने ओ दाग रहन दे, बदनाम राजनीति दे सुराग रहन दे, कानू बालना बनेरे ते मोमबत्तियां। खैर 30 साल काफ़ी लंबा समय है और ऐसे लोगों की कोशिश नाल यह दौर भी आया कि जो पंजाबी विच सुरजीत पात्र ने कहा आओ बालिए मोमबत्तियां कि जिस चीज़ का डर सी कि हिंदू सिख जी डिवाइड लगती सी और यह लगता सी कि पार्टीशन वर्गा समय आ गया है वो नहीं रहा। खैर होया वो इन्ना माड़ा होया कि जख्म हाली तक जिंदा ने और हाली भी लोग जानना चाहते हैं कि उस समा कैसे सी। आई वुड लाइक टू कोट 4 लाइन्स फ्रॉम खुशवंत सिंह। द ड्रामा of the Punjab. This was a book he co-edited with Kuldeep Nayyar, co-written with Kuldeep Nayyar. The drama of the Punjab is a tragedy played by poltroons, with the common people watching it as silent spectators. In the final act, players will come off the stage to set the theatre on fire. The theme of this book is the last act of the drama. I now turn to Mr. Rahul Singh. I worked under him, and I worked under him in Indian Express in the days of Operation Blue Star, and he was the editor. It was a very unhappy and crucial time in the history of Punjab. And I would like him to recount his observation on that period. Mr. Rahul Singh.
Okay. I was sent here by my office. I was then in Bombay when Blue Star took place. And because Chandigarh was such an important position, there was no editor here. I was sent by my owner to Chandigarh to take over the Indian Express. This was just straight after Blue Star, and some mutinies had taken place. I think about 4,000 Sikhs had mutinied. But before I go on to talk about that, let me just say a little bit about Indira Gandhi. Now, she is considered to be, one of the main villains of the piece. But let me remind people that in 1980, I was covering the 1980 election, and I traveled in large parts of Punjab. She was immensely popular in Punjab amongst the Sikhs. It's something which we need to remember. Her son had married a Sikh girl, Menaka Gandhi, and the Congress defeated the Akalis, which means that a lot of Sikhs voted for Indira Gandhi at that time. I think that's one point that we should bear in mind. Number two, I think after Sanjay Gandhi died in that, something seemed to have, she seems to have lost something. I think she lost her political touch that she had. She had a very good political instinct. She lost that political touch. And I believe that the Punjab tragedy, Blue Star, I think was partly because she lost her touch at that time. Of course, we must also remember that in that period, there was the rise of Bhindranwale. He was a school dropout, obscure preacher, promoted by the Congress party, by none else than Gyani Zail Singh, who promoted him to try to defeat the Akalis. That, again, is something that we need to remember, that I don't think Mrs. Gandhi, if she had had her political touch, would have allowed that. Anyway, this is what happened. And of course, we know, everybody knows what happened after that, the kind of plan of Bhindranwale and the terrorists. They would take Hindus out of buses and shoot them, preach communalism, sectarianism. The idea being that it was a really devilish idea, was that the Sikhs should be made to feel insecure outside Punjab and come into Punjab, and the Hindus in Punjab should be threatened and made terrorized, really, to move out of Punjab so that there would be a Sikh majority Punjab. It was a terrible plan, and that was the kind of the scenario that was created for Blue Star. Now, there are lots of, I was talking to Gurpreet here, and he says that the truth is not yet been told about Blue Star, which is very true. Nobody believes the official figures of the number of people died. Some people say it was a conspiracy, deliberately chosen. They chose June the 3rd, which was the day of the martyrdom of Guru Arjan Dev. Why did they choose that day? I don't believe that. I think it was all a bad blunder, a botched operation. And I don't believe that there was any conspiracy. No, it was just badly done. General Vaidya, according to R.K. Dhawan, Indira Gandhi's close advisor at that time, General Vaidya told Indira Gandhi that there would be hardly any casualties, and they would clean up the place, get the terrorists out with hardly any casualties. The intelligence was bad. I also need to remind everybody here that the army did make announcements to the pilgrims inside the temple to come out, because there was. some who tried to come out were shot by the terrorists inside. So a lot of the pilgrims were more or less forced to remain there. They say thousands of pilgrims. Now, that is something which has been proven, that these pilgrims who tried to get out were shot and were prevented from leaving the temple. Again, something which we should remember, which is forgotten now. So the blood of those innocent pilgrims is not only at the hands of the army, which of course these people were caught in, but also in the hands of the terrorists who prevented them from leaving the temple. Now, I don't know how much time do I have, Niru? Okay, I'm just going to. These are all these thoughts which were coming to my mind when I was coming here, and what I thought I would throw up to the panelists here, and of course the audience, I'm sure, would like to ask questions. The turning, the flashpoint really was April 25th, 1984, with the murder of Avtar Singh Atwal, a senior police officer who had gone there for prayers, and he was shot point blank, and the killer went back into the Darbar Sahib, I think. And that was considered to be the time when, if they had to send in the police, that was the time to do it. And somehow that time went. Meanwhile, the Golden Temple, the Darbar Sahib, was being reinforced with arms. They were being smuggled into, and the Akalis who knew this was happening, they did nothing. They were terrified of Bhindranwala and the armed people around him. They were real cowards at that time, as was the SGPC. They did nothing then. That was the time when they could have stood firm and said, we will not allow our holiest temple to be made into an armed fortress. It was made into an armed fortress with, of course, Shah Beg Singh doing the entire. So the whole Darbar Sahib was made into a formidable fortress with machine guns placed at way. There were even rocket launchers there, which the army knew nothing about. So when the operation began, first I think they blew up two watchtowers, 18th century watchtowers, which were blown up. And General Brar, who was in charge of the operation, he thought that with this shock and awe tactic of these watchtowers being blown up, bodies flying all over, that this would frighten the terrorists inside into surrendering. But of course, nothing of the sort happened. So then after that, the next was to send the commandos in. These commandos actually had been trained earlier for another operation which was aborted, which was to send 2 helicopters and send these commandos down to capture Bhindranwale and take him out. That operation never took place. A British intelligence person was brought in here to see if that was possible or not. That's why later on there was this talk about the British being involved in Blue Star. British were not involved in Blue Star, but they were involved in this earlier operation that they were planning to have, but which never worked out. So, this happened in June the 3rd, when this Blue Star operation began. Then, of course, when the commandos who went in, they were almost all killed. The few remaining ones were trying to get towards the Akal Takht, but there was a big killing ground in front of the Akal Takht where machine guns were shooting anybody who came there. So the commandos were pinned down. Then some infantrymen were sent in. They also couldn't make much progress because the terrorists were so well trained and the fortifications were so good that they couldn't make any. So then at about, I think, 3 or 4 a.m., and then they sent an armored personal carrier, and that was disabled by rocket launchers. So then they realized that there was no other option but to send tanks. So 3 Vijayantha tanks were sent in. I think this is just when it was getting about 4 o'clock or so in the morning. And those tanks, of course, did their worst and destroyed the Akal Takht. And that's when I think Shah Beg Singh and Bhindranwala were killed. But mopping up operations took another 2 days. Gyani Zail Singh visited the Golden Temple on June the 8th, morning of June the 8th. He was shocked to see what had happened, though he was one of the main culprits of that whole tragic episode. And a sniper tried to shoot him, but instead shot the lieutenant colonel who was taking, the lieutenant colonel survived but was very badly hurt. After, can I finish and then you can ask me?
After everyone is
Yeah,
spoken,
after I
you
finish,
invite me to
yeah.
talk. Please no interruption.
Yeah. So people wonder why did Indira Gandhi do this? I think one, as I mentioned, I think she had lost her political touch. Then General Vaidya told her there'll be hardly any casualties. Terrible miscalculation on the part of the army. Bad intelligence, terrible miscalculation. And then, of course, there was the election coming. And everybody around her told her this would be a great opportunity to show that you are standing for the unity of the country against separatists. And I believe that was also one of the considerations that she had. Well, that's all, well, the casualty figures nobody knows till now. Rajiv Gandhi, on a TV program, CNN IBN, he said, the official figure, of course, is very low. Official figure is 136 army men died, 220 were injured, and civilian casualties were put at 492. In fact, people believe that the civilian casualties were in the thousands. And Rajiv Gandhi said that 700 soldiers were killed. And the same TV channel said that 365 commandos also died. So it was really, as I wrote an article and I said, it is the bloodiest confrontation of the military with a section of its own people since independence. And I think that was the most tragic part of it, is that our own army was fighting against its own people. And that's why I think this remains such a terrible chapter after independence, over which I think we still have not come through. Though I'm glad to say that the Sikhs, which were, at one time considered, did not feel themselves part of the mainstream, slowly came back into the mainstream. And the proof of that was the fact that Dr. Manmohan Singh became Prime Minister of India. We had a Sikh as the head of the army, J.J. Singh. And also I must tell you also that the Sikh jokes, the Sadaji jokes came back into the mainstream.
Mr. Rahul Singh, one question I'd like to ask you. There was speculation that could there have been a way other than army action? What is your opinion on that?
Well, once the Golden Temple became fortified with the kind of arms that they got, like rocket launchers, police action would not have been feasible, would not have worked. But I think before that, as I said, when Avtar Singh was killed, I think that was the time when the police would have gone in and there would have been much less loss of life. There are people who say that you could have starved them out. After all, Gill did that, later on. I don't know, what was that operation called? Black Thunder. He successfully did that. He starved them out, kind of psychological tactics. But at 1984, there was a genuine fear that there would be an uprising in the countryside. I think that was a genuine fear, and I think they felt that after all these arms had got into the temple, there was no other alternative but to have the army come in. It was a bad mistake, it was a terrible blunder, and I think the country paid for it. So, but they could have tried some other alternatives, but that's what happened.
No, after the panel discussion is over, all the questions will be welcome. You know, this I heard at a private conversation, General Sundarji. As the order was passing, he says when it came to his ears, he trembled. Because the sanctity, the religious sanctity, the sacred quality of Harmandir Sahib, Darbar Sahib, was not just for the Sikhs. Even now, anyone coming from the south or west or east to Delhi makes it a point to go to Amritsar to see Harmandir Sahib and then the Wagah border. What happened after Operation Blue Star, we all know, and it was for the worse. It was for the worse. And I would like Ramesh Vinayak, because it was those years that he covered, stationed in Amritsar and covering from village to village. I would like to share his experience with us and his thoughts.
Thank you, Nupma. Nupma, I went to Amritsar in June 1987. That was my first job with the Tribune. And Amritsar, was a new city to me. And to be very honest, when I went there, the atmosphere was very surcharged. And one could see or one could feel, this communal polarization, which was, I think, sharpened by Operation Blue Star. It was very much in the air. And I remember that a couple of journalists, non-Sikh journalists in Amritsar, who advised me not to go to Darbar Sahib, but I chose to ignore their advice, and perhaps I was one of few non-Sikh journalists who was regularly going to Golden Temple, because by that time, there was build-up for another operation, which happened a year later, which Sir Rahul Singh referred to as Operation Black Thunder. And I remember that at that time, a lot of protagonists of Operation Blue Star, a lot of people who had seen this horrible incident up close and personal, they were alive, and we could hear their narrative. But at that time, this interest in Blue Star perhaps was overshadowed by a lot of other events which are happening in Punjab at that point of time. So which is why I see after 30 years now, there is renewed interest in Operation Blue Star, how it happened, why it happened, and one can see whole body of work, whether it's in form of your novels or your other journalistic narrative or documentaries. I have a colleague sitting here somewhere in an audience, Harpal Singh of Day and Night, who did a tremendous job by putting Operation Blue Star in a perspective in alliance with his editor, Mr. Kamar Sandhu. I think that's a seminal work on Operation Blue Star. If somebody wants to understand Blue Star in a perspective, that is the documentary to, I think, watch. And as a journalist, when I, look back at Operation Blue Star, to me, the legacy of Blue Star it's still divisive after 30 years. There were combatants on both sides, there were casualties on both sides, but there were no winners. Punjab lost, Punjabis lost, nation lost, humanity lost in that Operation Blue Star. And what really amazes me, and having covered Punjab for so many years, after this turmoil, we got into peace mode. Operation Blue Star never happened overnight. There was a build-up. The whole, when I look back, it amazes me how, it was a failure of statecraft, it was failure of your government institution, it was failure of religious institution, it was failure of civil society. Nobody could stop it. Nobody could stop the momentum of events which eventually culminated into this Operation Blue Star. So when I look back, I think more than the legacy, it's the lessons which are important. Legacy is still divisive. It still provokes, it still evokes different reactions. There are divergent views about Operation Blue Star, but lessons are something which really unite us. That we have to always think of resolving political issues in real time. We cannot suppress, the democratic impulse of people. We cannot keep political or even religious issues kind of simmering for a long time. Otherwise, they tend to culminate into something as horrible as Operation Blue Star. I mean, when I, sometimes when look at television, I listen to Gurbani from Darbar Sahib, live telecast. Before Operation Blue Star, the one of the demand of Akalis was that allow us direct broadcast of Gurbani from Darbar Sahib. It was seen in that separatist or secessionist prism. And today you have live telecast of Gurbani from Golden Temple. So the context has changed. The whole, the contextual, part of Punjab has changed. So I would say, Nirupama, first of all, I must, compliment you for setting up such a difficult discussion, and only you could have done it. And we need to, a lot of time, people ask me that can there be a closure on Operation Blue Star? My own sense is that you can perhaps, it will fade into your memory. It has already faded into our collective memory, but it will never go away. And I don't think there should be a closure on Operation Blue Star. We need to remind ourselves, we need to remind our generations that this is the terrible mistake, terrible blunder our political masters, religious leaders committed. That's why we had to go through such a terrible time. So I guess that this would stay on with us. But to conclude, I think more terrible than Operation Blue Star was its aftermath, which was your 1984 violence against Sikhs. You cannot by any stretch of imagination justify those riots, that violence against Sikhs, especially because there has been no justice for last 30 years. That would rankle more us than even Operation Blue Star. Thank you.
One question, Vinayak. You say you were one of the non-Sikh reporters, going to the Darbar Sahib. In those times, and Mr. Rahul Singh just said that, there was an effort to, push one community out and have. Did you ever come across, or what did you see? Was there a Hindu-Sikh divide at that time?
There was definitely an unease between two communities. They were not relating to each other as they usually do. And, I think one reason why I always felt confident of going to Golden Temple was that, one, I was working for a newspaper which was seen to be very neutral, credible newspaper, the Tribune. And secondly, I think I had that self-belief that nobody would harm me. I think that journalistic exuberance, whatever you call it, I didn't face any dicey or dreadful situation in Golden Temple, to be very honest. And the other day I went to Darbar Sahib and it took me 2 hours to, go into Sanctum Sanctorum and Matha Teko. And then, I had a flashback. My God, I had seen days when Golden Temple was absolutely deserted during daytime. There were hardly any devotees post 84, before that 87 Operation Black Thunder. So I think, Darbar Sahib, remains our source of spiritual strength, spiritual belief. and it will continue to do so despite these horrible events which have unfolded there.
Now I would request Manmohanji, we'll come to that. Please wait, have patience. You know, I now come to Mr. Robin Gupta, a former senior civil servant, who was posted at Delhi when Mrs. Gandhi was assassinated and followed by the ruthless killing of the Sikhs. I would like him to share with us what was his perception and what was the role of the government machinery in what was happening all around. Mr. Robin Gupta. Yes, certainly.
Thank you, Nirupma, for this opportunity. It is only appropriate that you organize this discussion today. And it is wonderful to have Rahul here and Ramesh and so many others. My own limited experience is confined to the terrible anti-Sikh riots in November 1984. I was then posted in Delhi with the government of India. And after the tragic assassination of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, there was a complete breakdown. By complete, I mean complete. Breakdown of the law and order machinery. The situation worsened in Delhi with a campaign of misinformation, disinformation about jubilation by terrorists and so on and so forth. And a little while earlier, I'm speaking now from the administrative point of view, they had set up the police commissioner system. The previous system, always the time-honored system, was the system of a district magistrate overall superintending the police forces. And now we had changed to a system of a police commissioner. The police commissioner system completely capsized. And I have personally heard policemen, I stay in central Delhi, in the center of central Delhi, encouraging the rioters. And this is something completely alien to time-honored administrative culture as it has come down in the civil service for 200 years. You cannot have policemen actually causing murder or killing themselves. But I've seen this happening. Things reach, and then later I found out then according to the premier investigation agency of India, the CBI, the Delhi police encouraged the killings of Sikhs in the capital at their own behest and at the behest of political leaders. And some of the names mentioned are Arun Nehru, Arun Singh, Rajiv Gandhi, one Sajjan Kumar, Tytler, Pilot, Dharamdas Shastri, and so on and so forth. And I belong on one side to a family of civil servants. I refer to the ICS in the previous generation. And a very close family friend, Mr. Dharmavira, the celebrated cabinet secretary, he had gone to the Prime Minister along with Justice Sikri, and they pleaded, they said, right under the eyes of the central government, such heinous killings are taking place, are happening, with the police just looking on. And in that context, I'm told that, I mean, I don't know any more than you would know, that Rajiv is said to have remarked that earthquake and tree and that famous remark. I hope it's a misquote, but
When
if,
the big tree falls.
whether I know I am deliberately being carefully careless. so, so when a big tree falls, the earthquake is bound to follow. Things like that. So things reached such a pass that the ministers were nowhere and the secretaries were nowhere. And finally, the cabinet secretary in India is the least known office or officer, but he is the apex of all the government machinery, the entire executive. It's called Secretary to the Cabinet, Cabinet Secretary. And the Cabinet Secretary summoned middle rank officers. By middle rank, I mean deputy secretaries to the government of India, directors, the kind of post I was occupying. And we were all summoned to the Cabinet Secretariat and assigned zones. Delhi was divided into zones. And then we were given a military force. And my own zone was Central Delhi, in Central Delhi. And I've seen Sikhs being killed and burnt, and in 3-4 cases I actually rescued them. I was a young chap then. And I got the army chaps who hit them with the rioters with butts of their rifles and shoot and all kinds of things. It was horrible, really horrible. How this could happen in Delhi is unimaginable even for a civil servant now with 37 years behind him. I agree with Rahul. Indira Gandhi was the most remarkable person. In fact, I had a great fascination for her as a statesman, as a personality. She did India proud on the international front, and she was truly secular. How an astute lady like her, astute stateswoman like her, could permit such an attack on the Akal Takht. I mean, it's unimaginable because this is the epicenter of Sikh psyche. And as Ramesh pointed out, Hindu psyche also. You know, we all look to it for spiritual sustenance. In my case, I will confess later, I'm from one side of Bhandari, a family blessed by Guru Nanak in Batala. So how Mrs. Gandhi, I think she really must have started losing her political touch. Maybe something to do with her other son's tragic death. I can't understand this. But to imagine that you could attack the Akal Takht and have a single Sikh on your side, or to that matter, many Hindus on your side, was a massive blunder. Now, there are lots of discussion and lots of things to be said, but I'm sure Rahul and others would agree with me that the entire Punjab problem was mischievously mishandled. It ought to have the manner in which a doctor, my dear friend Jasjeet, I see him sitting there, the manner in which a doctor would attend to a patient, so also an administrator must attend to a social malaise or a terrible situation that is allowed to arise. But the whole thing was, it was hijacked by political considerations, small minds, some kind of perverted Akali way of thinking, creating a Khalistan, driving Sikhs out of the rest of India, driving Hindus out of Punjab. And I mean, such kind of satanical thoughts of a people who are one. This matter should have been left to seasoned administrators to deal with. I, for one, think that some people might agree with me, given such a terrible situation, Mr. Dharmavira or Mr. Khera, someone like that would have attended to the matter and sorted it out. But that was not allowed to happen. Even flushing out Sikh militants, holding concourse with Bhindranwala and so on, it was left to take an emotional trajectory. I unfortunately don't have much experience or knowledge about Operation Blue Star because I'm originally from the Bengal cadre. I was permanently transferred to the Punjab in 1992. But this portion I have shared my very sad experience with you. And the greatest tragedy, I think Ramesh was saying that we shouldn't put a quietus, we shouldn't allow a closure. Actually, it's not possible unless the guilty are punished. Why wouldn't they be punished? I have not understood this. 30 years have passed and they've got away with it. They've got to be punished, identified and punished. And as my friend Gurpreet, actually he's not my friend, his parents are my friends. You know, he pointed out that nobody knows the truth today about the entire conspiracy behind the assassination of Indira Gandhi. Nobody knows what happened behind the scenes. Nobody has been punished who was guilty. Until that happens, peace will not return. It will be some kind of sad remembrance that will haunt you always. Thank you, Neeru.
Thank you, Robin. I have saved the youngest panelist for the end. This is Amandeep Sandhu, who was but a boy when these tragic events were happening in Punjab. And he took it upon himself, since it's the literature festival, I must say, that the first writing on not just Operation Blue Star, before that, you know, when Bihari laborers were being killed, those who were sleeping outside, or people were pulling out one community and killing them. The first stories, poetry, yes, but for a Punjabi writer, it was too close and too shocking to be writing fiction then. Fiction always comes later, unless you are a Sadat Hasan Manto, recording impassion. So we had a novelist, Lakshmi Kanan from Tamil Nadu doing a novel. We had N.S. Madhavan from Malayalam writing the famous story, which in English translation is When the Big Tree Falls. We had some good stories from Hindi, Mehndi Ratna Sahib. We had Arun Prakash's Bhaiya Express, which was about a Bihari laborer being killed. We also had, I forget the writer's name, but Sikh Bheek Nahi Mangte. But very little that came from Punjab by way of fiction. Indrani Goswami wrote on Punjab. I would like to ask you that how did this novel germinate, and how did you, the novel is called Roll of Honor in English, and it has been translated into Punjabi and by Daljit Ami, and Amandeep has given it a very evocative title, Gawa De Fana Hon Tu Pehla, that let those who knew at least say what was happening. And it is a novel which works in many layers. Now over to Amandeep.
Thank you, Nirupama ji. And she called me up a few weeks back and said, would you be able to come? And I said, yeah. And then I looked at the schedule and it was slated for tomorrow morning. And then a few days back, I again noticed the schedule, and she had me on this panel with almost everybody here who is sitting, and I have learned from them. And I was like, what will I contribute to that panel discussion? But while sitting here itself, I noticed when Rahul ji was speaking, there were murmurs in the audience, people had questions. I hope you have them still. Then there are people like me who came in the next decade, and then there are children out there who are now looking at all this, and it's almost like Dadaji ki kahani for them, you know, like what is this people talking about? And as Vinayak ji was saying that it should not be closed, I'm like, it hasn't even been discussed openly yet. We still have so many points of view on what happened. We haven't reconciled to a singular story of what happened. We haven't reconciled to a singular story of what has been the effect of what happened. Let us compare it, very different events, but still let us compare it with another great tragedy that happened in this land in 1947 with partition. Everybody seems to think that partition was overall bad. It happened, political machinery worked in particular ways, religious sentiments were stroked, and the events happened. It was tragic, it was bad. We all share the pain of partition. But regarding 84, we are even divided in our pain towards it. We are not even reconciled yet with the idea that even Golden Temple being broken was a mistake. Some say no, it was necessary. You just go on any social media, anywhere, and there are half people defending it, half people against it. It's completely, and to me a society doesn't come together only through language or through religion, it comes together through shared pain. And as Punjab, we don't have a shared pain about 84. We don't even, honestly, in this current times, I can say, we don't even have a shared pain over the riots that happened from tomorrow onwards 30 years back. We don't even have a shared pain on what it means to be a Punjabi in a world which was actually a complete world in its own and was just tampered by everybody from everywhere. So as a society, if we are not going to have a shared pain, a shared understanding of events, I don't think we can even start talking about any kind of truth or reconciliation. And my generation looks at, and it's again, as ma'am said right in the beginning, it's not personal. None of us were responsible for what happened. We only try to talk about it, report it, deal with it in a sort of good faith that we are trying to work towards peace and harmony. Yet, still, somebody like me would look at them and say, okay, what are the lessons you tell me? What is that one thing I need to learn that that mistake will not happen with us tomorrow again? Right now, what is the political constitution of Punjab, if you are aware of it, with the leading party in power and its other party alongside, we are again going to hurtle right down that lane. We have learned nothing. And to me, being a Punjabi, 30 years and you don't learn anything? You are the guys who go and run a shop within 3 days. You are up and running within a week. Anywhere of the world you go to, you start your businesses, your enterprise, your everything. And we are like, for 30 years we haven't learned anything. And that strikes me as strange. Why? Isn't it the same people? So what is it about these events that happened? What is it about my neighbor being separate? The tragedy of roll of honor is not really the tragedy of 84 or of this or that. It's just the divide that happens between a Sikh boy and a Hindu boy. That is the tragedy of the book. I mean, there are many tragedies. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But just that, what happened to this completely mixed society? We asked Vinayakji, what was the feeling then? What was the feeling of a Sikh girl married into a household, into a Hindu household, or a Hindu girl married into a Sikh household? What was her feeling? What happened to her life later on? I think these are the questions our generations need to ask. Okay, what happened? Yes, bad. No, we don't know whether bad or not. And yet you go right now into Punjab and start uncovering, peeling off the layers, and you see that the whole sentiment is right there, dominant. And I'm very sorry to say it if somebody takes offense, but all our people who wanted to do something, did do something, they all went away somewhere abroad and sit there and they keep fanning the fires here. And we keep sitting here and like saying, oh, that is an issue. Okay, we'll fight for that. Oh, no, that is not an issue. Where should we go? Anybody just springs up and it starts happening. Even it happened in 84. Jagjit Singh Chauhan was somewhere printing Khalistani notes. And it happens there. It's the only society in the whole world where the diaspora rules the mainland. And that to me is tragic. Because if this was the mainland, this was the place where for 3,000 years we fought battles against every invader, we accepted tourists and travelers. This is our Punjab. So it just completely, and where is all this sentiment? Where is it happening? I was in Bihar last week. I'm looking at the Bihari migration to Punjab. And a very senior, I won't name him, police officer said, the red corridor starts where the state retreats. So the more you retreat from the state and administration and the good work that needs to be done, for him it is red corridor, for us it is a Khalistan here. Because people will aspire for a better life. And if you divide them in particular ways, you will just end up dividing them. Thank you.
Now I thank the panelists and the people who have participated, added to the panel, and memory fights for getting on this very sensitive topic, and we shall talk about it even downstage. Thank you, Mr. Rahul Singh, Ramesh Vinayak, Amandeep, and Robin Gupta for this, sharing your views with us.